You must have never seen a bigger display of defeating the hard power of technology with intelligent math. The Chinese deep-seekers have defeated American restriction and powerful tech engines with a pure genius stroke. Is it true? As American companies claim that China has stolen, the US imposed over 1,000 sanctions on Chinese tech companies, and China's solution has to create a 3-nanometer chip. A Chinese solution that was to create a 3-nanometer chip, a leap bigger than landing humans on the moon. Investors who had put billions of dollars into American AI are now wondering whether investing in American companies is more profitable than the Chinese ones. So does this mean that China has surpassed America? We also have technology that America and China couldn't even imagine. You must have certainly heard that the new model from the Chinese IT company Deepseek has caused a stir in the world of science, business, and power politics. Its model ARV achieved in just $6 million what American tech companies couldn't achieve even with the multi-billion-dollar investments. The US, which in the last 20 years has focused most on ensuring that China doesn't even close to cutting-edge technologies, has seen the opposite effect of all its efforts. But wait a minute. Friends, you will understand this better if we tell you the background story. On October 7, 2022, US President Joe Biden imposed sanctions preventing worldwide nanochip maker companies from selling specialized cutting-edge technologies to China. These sanctions were especially imposed on companies that were producing various products with American help. Regardless of which country they were from, both American and non-American companies were affected. Additionally, several Chinese companies were also sanctioned, prohibited them from doing business with American-linked companies or engaging in certain types of trading. The technology targeted by these sanctions was nanochip products. In fact, the US has been troubled by China's growing influence in artificial intelligence for years, and to reduce it, they have continuously imposed sanctions after sanctions. If we collect all these direct and indirect sanctions, there are over 1,000 sanctions that the US has imposed on China IT industry. Of these, 532 are directly on Chinese companies, while the rest are on the companies and trade agencies around the world that help China with modern chip technology, sales, transfers, or manufacturing. The US has been so eager to teach China a lesson that every president, both upon entering and leaving office, has imposed sanctions on China. You will notice that Donald Trump, when he had lost the 2020 election in December, blacklisted China's most important semiconductor manufacturing company on his way out. Similarly, exactly 4 years later, in December 2024, when Joe Biden's party had lost the election, he also imposed new sanctions on the Chinese semiconductor companies before leaving the office. American agencies had been preparing for these sanctions for several years, and continuous leaks indicated that the US has about to impose sweeping sanctions on Chinese companies. In short, over the past 20 years, which year and which month was the US set up walls in front of Chinese companies? All of this happened because of the name of the present and future technology has become artificial intelligence, AI, for which quantum computing science is most crucial. The US wants American companies to lead in the AI race. You should understand that if you want to process any kind of data using any computing machine, meaning if you want to get output, you need a very powerful processor. The more powerful the processor, the more data it can process, and the faster it will work. Processors are made from the semiconductor materials, which are derived from silicon, and they have circuits that are known as transistors. These are the gates in these transistors that actually process the data, and the more efficient the transistors are, the faster the processor will work. In 1971, when Intel made the first microprocessor, each of its chips had 2,300 transistors. In November 2000, when the PF Pentium was released, it had 42 million transistors. After that, when Apple launched the MacBook Air in 2020, its M1 processor contained 16 billion transistors. And now the situation has reached a point where the chip, while being developed by the US foundational company NVIDIA, also plays a crucial role in AI. NVIDIA makes and imports chips, and one of its chip products contains 80 billion transistors. This is such a huge number and such a small unit that it's hard to even imagine. An example, an HB pencil, the common writing pencil with a metal part that you and I have used at some point in life, has the line that's 200,000 nanometers thick. While the size of each chip or the size of the transistor gate may vary slightly, When we talk about a 3 nanometer transistor, it means we are talking about a technology that can place 300 million transistors in 1 square millimeter. This is the most modern cutting-edge technology right now, that if you want to innovate anything in future, the foundation will be based on nanotechnologies. Whether you are building fighter jets, conducting census data collection, creating new computers, setting up a factory for family cars, making new equipment for surgeries, or establishing city security systems, everything will rely on this nanotechnology foundation for future innovations. So if you want to launch a city project or make progress in any field, if you don't have any system of nanotechnologies, then you are stuck in the old era and you won't be able to compete with those from the new era. The data obtained from around the world needs to be processed at super fast speed, and the results must be delivered to you. This is no longer possible without this technology. Imagine a machine that reads 5 million pages per second and gives you an answer, while another machine reads 10 billion pages and delivers results in the same amount of time. Obviously, the second machine will provide better answers and deliver superior products. This technology can only be achieved through a combination of quantum physics, mathematics, and mechanical engineering, and it has been achieved. Today, Taiwan's TSMC is leading in the field of American support because the US also leads the world in quantum physics. This is why the US has the most control over Taiwan and its company TSMC. Despite Taiwan's being just a small stretch of water in away from China, the US controls this company to ensure that China doesn't develop advanced nanotechnology or gain access to the products needed for it. The products needed for this cannot be sold. A Chinese company should have been the one leading this, not Taiwan, because Taiwan is the part of China. With the help of an American company, Taiwan has become an independent entity operating on a separate system. Anyway, TSMC, Taiwan's company, is the only organization in the world working on the smallest nanotechnologies. This company produces 90% of the world's advanced chips and has already developed semiconductor technologies with the chips as small as 2 nanometers. They are also working on 3 nanometer processors, and China cannot be business with them. Before we go further, you must be wondering how the US can impose sanctions on foreign companies, preventing them from selling their products to another country. The answer is that no country in the world can work alone as such advanced technology. They need many other supporting technologies to help them work on next generation technology. Similarly, these companies and countries need wealthy buyers from rich countries who will purchase these technology and products. The US has also played Taiwan with the security of its technology, especially in developing nanochips. It continues to do so today, and its biggest exports go to US. As we mentioned earlier, the US and its allies have been using all their power to prevent China from ever reaching the computing power of American companies. So China would also remain far behind in the field of artificial intelligence. But what happened? Next is that Chinese engineers proved the historical saying that brains are bigger than brawn. Ever though America has blocked access to powerful nano-powered machines, they had the intelligence to write algorithms and code that made their software so efficient. Essentially, the work that America used to get done with computing power, the Chinese achieved with efficient programming. Imagine you need to break a stone, and someone has imposed a ban on selling you a hammer or any tool to make on yourself. Instead of that, you found a genius way to soften the stone, and then you were able to break it using this new method. After softening the hard stone with their heads, they transformed it and created a product so amazing that everyone was left astonished. Now the one who had banned them from buying a hammer was left wondering what to do next. They were now at loss. Something similar happened with America and American companies. Now let's discuss what China did in the field of AI. According to this example, in fact, Deepseek, a cheap AI startup, was established in May 2023. Initially, it only had around 200 people, and even now, it isn't much bigger. The 37-year-old young entrepreneur, Ling Wenfeng, started the startup, which wasn't given much importance at that time. What he and his team did was start working with open source AI models, unlock the free AI models, and begin refining their algorithms by combining different methods and models. This approach existed before, but they introduced innovation into it. Right now, most of the research on AI and computing system being conducted around the world comes from either Chinese students or Chinese-linked organizations. So the Deepseek team utilized the youth capital effectively, as the young people were writing most of the research papers. Due to American sanctions, these couldn't access new technology processors. They did what others didn't. They used the old 7 nanometer processors and started working with them. This meant their computing power and speed were limited, but their intelligence was not. So with a pure stroke of genius, they brought efficiency into the old system through their coding. Just before last Christmas, they launched a model called Deepseek v3, similar to ChatGPT. It worked at almost the same speed. Some IT giants in the US took it seriously, but most ignored it because at that time many American companies like Meta, OpenAI, ChatGPT, and Microsoft were working on a new model. This new model was designed not just to create products or rely to queries through AI computing, but also to offer reasoning. ChatGPT referred to it as O model, and it was kept confidential. Their thought was, so what if a Chinese startup was created a model similar to ours? Our new O model will be beyond their imagination. Of course, they are believed that even if China wanted to, or if some of its startups were talking about, they couldn't succeed because they didn't have the computing power or machines that American companies had. But what happened was that on the very day US President Donald Trump was taking the oath of the office on January 20, China launched the Deepseek v3 model, which could also provide thinking and reasoning. This was a bombshell because American companies and think tanks had exerted all their efforts to prevent this from happening. They had been trying for years and were confident and it was not possible for the Chinese to achieve this. The DeepSeek achievement was so surprising because they trained the model in just 2 months, while American companies with their ChatGPT models took years to reach this stage. Moreover, they had the technology that the Chinese didn't have, and you have seen in this video. Also, while American companies were training their models using supercomputers with at least 16,000 chips, DeepSeek accomplished this with just 2,000 old AI chips. Now, what's remarkable about the Chinese model? Let's put it in this way. You must have used or are using OpenAI's ChatGPT 4 model, which provides a lot of help and replies but lacks reasoning. ChatGPT is working on a version where reasoning will be incorporated and they call it O model, but it hasn't launched yet. Even before this, DeepSeek launched their thinking and reasoning model R1 right around the time of the US President inauguration. This was a bombshell because it shocked billionaire investors who were exclusively investing in American companies, believing in their future. They started realizing that if China could do this in just 2 months, it was a game changer. If you are expecting more profit by investing heavily in American companies, just imagine how much more profit we could make by investing in Chinese startups. This is the reason why suddenly the shares of the leading American company working on nanochips, Nvidia, started falling. In one day, they lost $900 billion in market value, which is equivalent to Pakistan's total GDP over 2.5 years. This decline and the effect of falling shares distributed investors in all AI startups. This impact is still felt in the US because, like technology, this is also a paradigm shift in the business world. In politics as well, American policies and sanctions have not only failed but also backfired, benefiting China. These genius minds and young innovators have found new ways to require less power, less energy, fewer resources, and less investment, but are far more efficient. But it doesn't stop there. The new problem for Chinese tech companies is that Chinese company DeepSeek has kept it open source and free. This means that if American startups don't keep their sources open, China will take over the world market. And if they do keep their sources open, China will learn from them and push their own startups even further ahead. Some friends might be wondering what open source means. Well, there are some programs whose algorithms or software are logged within the company and can also be accessed or edited by their engineers. Only they can update it, just like Apple's iOS system. You can only find it on Apple devices. No one can buy it, modify it, or search for bugs or add features to it. In contrast, there are other software programs that you can buy from the company, and after purchasing them, you can update it with the help of your IT team and experts. In fact, you can use it for your business, even relaunch it after making your own updates. This is actually an accusation of intellectual property breach, claiming that our design or model has been copied. Now there are 2 points to keep in mind here. One is that whether the accusation of intellectual property crimes is correct or wrong, that practical result is that the more innovation someone does, the more they win, especially in the beginning. Even if they initially copied, the second thing to remember is that once knowledge, technology, or philosophy is in the market, there can be no restriction on using, testing, or applying it for personal benefit. From atomic weapons to flying jets, we have shown and discussed in the Great Game how major companies around the world steal each other's ideas and intelligence agencies often assist them. In such cases, other countries may raise accusations, but in the end, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the world will buy the products that are most beneficial for them, and the ones that are cheaper, more accessible, and available. The market will be won by those who can better utilize modern technology and handle it effectively.